So in this video, I'm going to talk about the gear that I use and why I use it. And we'll start with the drums. I play KC drums. This is a KC custom set. And I got this kit about 6 months ago when I connected with Jason, the owner, originally. And I was in the market for a new kit. The kit that I was playing previously, I had been playing for probably 10 years straight. It was totally scratched up. It was a cheaper brand, a cheaper model. I won't say which, but it wasn't really getting the job done anymore. And so I took a couple KC kits on loan and just tried them out, and they blew me away. And so me and Jason from KC Drums just sat down and started to put an order together. And I decided to go with 2 bass drums, a 10, a 12, a 14, and a 16, all in maple. And maple specifically because it just gives me a really, really warm tone, and it's really what I'm looking for in the music that I'm playing. And I went with a custom satin burst finish. As you can see, it's a beautiful black, and it bursts to kind of a deep purple, and really, really sweet looking. Black hardware as well, black powder coated hardware, and yeah. So I went for 2 20-inch kicks. I find that you get a little bit more punch with a 20-inch rather than a 22, but I also got the depth extended a little bit, so it's a 20 by 18. So with the added depth, you still have a really, really nice low-end kick to it, which you might not have if it was a shallower depth. So the kicks sound sweet. I get compliments on how good the bass drum sounds like every time I take them out. Really, really happy with them. And yeah, so I went for a 10 and a 12 rack tom. I find that I like the even sizes better. I don't really like 13s or 15s or anything like that. So 10 and 12, they just tune up really, really easy, really, really nice. And I like to tune them kind of mid-range, not too high, not too low, and I find that they just really, really sing. It's really nice. And then I also have a 14 on my left and a 16 on my right, and I just enjoy having the possibility to mimic what I'm doing on my right side with my left side and kind of practice my technique with my left hand a little bit more. I kind of like to flip over, and it's a 14 by 14, which gives you a nice low-end kick for the floor tom, and a 16 by 16 as well. So yeah, they sound totally killer, and I couldn't be happier with them. Also with the kit, I got a matching wood KC snare drum. It's a 14 by 6, and it sounds totally killer. Didn't quite work for this application though, so I decided to use a pearl brass Sensitone, which also works really well. So for this video, I decided to use Jared's collection of Paiste signature cymbals. So we've got 15-inch dark energy hi-hats, 8-inch splash, 18-inch full crash, 19-inch dark energy crash, and a 21-inch full ride. And then I brought my own China, which is a Sabian 18-inch APX. And a lot of people have been asking about this from the free lesson videos. And yeah, it's a great China, and it's actually pretty cheap too. Next, I'll talk about the pedals that I use. Now, I get a lot of questions about these, especially over YouTube. And what I'm using is Axis Classic Black Longboards. Now, this is the older model. I think they've since kind of updated them a little bit. And as you can see, these ones have been around for a while. They're a little bit worn out. But yeah, I've been using these for probably 4 years. They're awesome. I really like them. I really enjoy that you can change the way they feel very, very easy with the variable drive lever down here. If you pull it closer to you, you get less power, but a lot more speed and a lot more twitch. And if you have it all the way forward, you get a lot of power. So it's a very versatile pedal. A lot of guys think that it's just good for speed, but you can actually do a lot with it. And I also really enjoy the added length on the footboard. It allows me to pull my feet back, use less power and momentum to get more speed, which is really important for some of the music that I play. I also use pearl beaters on them for the most part. I have in the past used wooden beaters for a specific sound, but I mainly enjoy the pearl beaters because you have the option felt or plastic, and they just feel like they've been weighted really good. So I really enjoy them. For a hi-hat pedal, I use the Iron Cobra hi-hat pedal, and it's by far the best hi-hat pedal that I've ever used. I've tried out a lot of different ones, but this one, it's really, really rugged, it's really tough, but it's just so smooth and really, really sensitive, and the adjustments on it are also really nice. Plus, it has the added feature of 2 legs, which you can swivel around, or you can just tuck them up like I have, so that it's anchored to the bass drum, which is really, really nice for me. Now for drumsticks, I'm using Los Cabos 5A Intense in white hickory. Now white hickory is just the standard wood used for drumsticks. You can also get them in, I think, red hickory and maple, but I just choose to go for white hickory. And intense just denotes that they're half an inch longer than a regular 5A, and I find that the balance feels really good, and it also enhances the reach, and I just really, really like the feel of a 5A Intense. Now Los Cabos is a Canadian company, relatively new, from New Brunswick, and they make great sticks, and for Canadians anyway, they're actually cheaper than the alternative, and they're really great, and I like them. Now, as you'll notice, I'm also using a Gibraltar rack system. One thing that's a little bit different about mine is I've got kind of a dual post mount setup here, and that's actually to allow me to break it down into two separate modules. So I can have this side of the kit set up, this side of the kit set up, and then taking it from off stage on the stage is really, really easy because you just take it in two pieces, put up the bass drums, the snare drum, and the floor toms, and it's good to go. And I actually find that it's faster to set up than a small kit because as long as I have the space and transportation, I can have the rack pieces set up and I just add the drums and cymbals. So it's a really, really easy way to go. It totally cleans up the floor space. There's no clutter. And yeah, I couldn't be happier with using a rack. On the other hand, for some of the smaller gigs that I play, I won't have this whole setup. I'll just have one bass drum, rack tom, and a floor tom, and I won't use my rack. I'll just use a couple stands because it's just, there's no real need for it. Now, in some applications, I'll also use triggers, mainly for the metal stuff that I play, but it comes in handy for really, really high tempos. Something that happens is when you play faster, you'll notice even on like a snare drum or a tom, when you play faster, it gets quieter, and that's because you're not coming up so high. When you've got a lower distance from the head, you get more speed, but you also lose volume. And with bass drums, they tend to get really lost in the mix if you're going really, really fast and they're not being amplified uniformly in some way. So that's why I use triggers. I use ddrum Pro triggers, which have been pretty standard for probably 10 or 15 years. They're super rugged. I think they're made out of steel, and I run them through a Alesis DM5 module, which is also really, really standard. It's nothing special, but it gets the job done, and it's been kind of a staple in the triggering industry for a pretty long time. So yeah. Now in this kit, I'm using Evans drum heads. I've got G2s on all of the toms. I've got clear G1s on the resonant side of all the drums. For the snare drum, I've got an HD dry, which is just kind of a heavy-duty head with extra muffling and a little bit of venting to kind of control the snare drum a little bit. For a metal snare drum like this, you'll get a lot of overtones if you don't control it. And I find generally with a snare drum like this, the producer will want to slap on a whole bunch of moon gel or tape anyway, so you might as well control it before you even show up. So really great for that, just makes the snare drum sound great. I've always used Evans for as long as I can remember. I've tried different brands, but Evans just seems to be the most consistent, and they tune up so easily. So I'm Evans all the way. So that's the gear I use. Go and check it out for yourself and see if it works for you.